nós teremos uma conferência Creativity Across Modalities in Viewpoint Constructions com a professora Eve Switzer, da Universidade da Califórnia, em Berkeley. Professor Eve Switzer.
Okay. Thank you, Andre. That's nice of you. Okay. So I'm going to sort of reverse the way it seems like things have been happening in understanding some of these things in literary viewpoint. Because a lot of what's been happening in literature departments is opening up beyond written text to other modalities. So where 50 years ago, literature departments would never have dreamt of looking at film. Now they do, of course. I'm going to start the other end. I'm going to start with multimodal communication and move from there to literature. Okay? I'm going to try to talk about some of the ways in which the way viewpoint in everyday interaction can underlie our understanding of literary viewpoints. But I'll start with a literary example. And Andre, give me a second slide, please.
Yes.
Okay. So this is a famous Wallace Stevens poem. And he says he put this jar on a hill in Tennessee, and it made the wilderness surround the hill. The jar somehow took dominion everywhere. Why would this be the case? And what the poem seems to be about is, there's an echo, oh dear. That's not good. Okay. No? All right. So what the poem seems to be about is how a man-made artifact suddenly creates human viewpoint. So the fact of the jar on the hill will tell anybody that finds it that there was a person there, that this is no longer just a hill, it's a hill somebody had a view from, right? It transforms a countryside into a landscape view. Why? So slide 3, please. Okay, so we have no unviewpointed perception. We're not God's eye. And not only do we have our own viewpoint to take into account, but we now know from neuroscience that we have to include in our construal perceptions and affordances of other humans and maybe animals present. So basically, when you are in a room with other humans, some part of you is always aware of not only what you can see, what you can reach, but what they can see and what they can reach. And let's add now, because we're going to get back to literature, we also can use these abilities to construe the perceptions and affordances of people who aren't there, or fictional imagined people. So communicating and understanding communication involve simulation. So this is a basic term of cognitive linguistics, which says essentially what I'm doing when I'm trying to communicate with you is I'm trying to get you to simulate, to run in your brains the imagined situation that I'm describing. Okay, so simulation is what I'm trying to get you to do. Not memorize a set of facts, but simulate a world situation. Okay, and that's necessarily, we just said, viewpointed simulation. Okay, because I don't know any other way to simulate a situation. I have to imagine it some way. Okay, Andre, if you'll give me slide 3. Parameters and classes, okay. So language is all about this, right? I have all these different spatial systems that are represented in language, and that includes things like an egocentric spatial system, me, here, them, there, right? A whole spatial system that is a deictic system centered on me, and there's a whole set of language forms that express that. We won't here talk about allocentric and geocentric systems, but let me just say for a moment, in case you didn't know this, there are linguistic systems in the world where I couldn't say, oh, look, you've got a crumb on your left leg. I'd have to say, oh, look, you've got a crumb on your southwest leg. Right? And I have to know what direction was southwest in order to be able to say that to you. Okay, so there, it doesn't matter where I am, doesn't matter what relationship I have to you, it's just how you map into the world. Okay, so those are called absolute directional systems, and some languages live by that instead of by proximity to me and so on. Another basic principle of language that we'll come back to, but that's interesting anyway, is iconicity. Okay, and here, although spoken language is certainly iconic in a lot of ways, gesture accompanying spoken language is even more iconic, right? Because it's in the same modality as sign languages, and your hands and your body are much better iconic representers than your voice. So I could have, let's say, my hand as an object. I could be, the shape of the object could be a flat thing. It could be a round thing, and so on. The movement of my hand could represent movement, and so on. All right, and that's all viewpointed to. So this could refer, for example, to movement forwards, or it could refer to futurity for those of us who have a future is ahead metaphor. Andrea, if you could give me 5, that's the deictic indexical structure. Okay. Okay, so we just said that gesture has an iconic structure, but it also has a deictic indexical structure like we were just talking about for language. So it's not just that this is motion, it's motion from me, away from me, forwards, as opposed to motion backwards, as opposed to motion to the side, right? And in particular, this could also be not only from me, but towards you. Okay, so the body is viewpointed, right? It's crucial in interpreting my gesture to know which direction I'm facing and where I'm with respect to you, and so on. So indexical structure, we could say, is a mode or parameter of gesture. It's a pervasive mode, just as iconicity is, and things can be iconic and indexical at the same time. All right. So the body is viewpointed, and so gestural communication is built on bodily viewpoint. Okay, as a result of this, it means something really different if I gesture, let's say, this way, all right, as opposed to if I did it this way, right? This way, you think maybe I'm directing it at the entire hall of you, saying, wait, don't ask a question right now. This way, you wonder who I'm directing it. It's whoever is over there, right? So here I've got something which is iconic, that is to say it's a barrier. It's iconic for a barrier. It's metaphoric, because obviously I can't stop anybody from asking questions by putting my hands up, right? It might stop a cat from jumping at me, but it won't stop a question from coming at me. So it's a metaphoric barrier. Oh, and it's deictically directed at you, okay, or not at you. Okay, give me slide 6. Let's see. We'll give up on slide 6. We'll go to slide 7. Here we are. Okay. Now, I'm going to try to, this is going to be harder with the screen. Oh dear. Okay. So this comes across in something as simple as just pointing. So I could point, let's say this could be at you. But I could also point, imagining, I could say, there was this person I was talking to, and he said, such and such. And I said, such and such, right? So there, it's in the imagined conversation that this is going on. That is to say, this is not local deixis. This is deferred or transposed deixis to the imagined situation. And I stop there because there's more to do. But let's move to 8. That's the deictic center. Here we are. Yeah, okay.
Slide 8.
Slide 8 is good. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So there seems to be this cross-linguistic understanding that here, and when you think about it, this is very odd, really, that here is directly in front of the speaker, inside the speaker's immediate gesture space, and here. So if I say, I want you to come right here, notice that in English anyway, exactly the same gesture could accompany, no, I want you to come right now. So this space in front of me, this immediate gesture space in front of me, which responds neurally to a parapersonal space, as they say. So there's actually neurons in your body that respond specifically when something comes close enough to you to be in your personal space. Okay? And ASL gesture established that space as being specifically the center of that space is not here, but here, right, in the space you're manipulating, acting in, right? So metonymic for me and my surroundings is here, this little thing, by which I mean here, right, my immediate surroundings. Okay, let's try 9. Okay. Okay, so in interaction, I have not just a space of mine, but I also got a space of ours, me and the person I'm talking to. And in everyday English conversation anyway, there is a particular distance at which people would sit. They might sit within, let's say, close enough to each other that their personal spaces don't actually touch. There's a little space in between their personal spaces, right? And now that means there's a conversational space, including both of their personal spaces. And crucially, there's a speaker addressee line, right? So gestures directed towards the addressee will be directed right along that line. Other gestures can be over here, right? But if I want to say, no, don't say anything right now, or if I want to make a point, it would be very weird if I did this or this. if the addressee was over here, right? I have to do it along that line. And the rest of this is, so to speak, unclaimed space. Now, that means that if a speaker, as I say, wants to make a point, wants to gain the floor in a conversation, they can't do it by gesturing over here. They have to do it by gesturing along here. And furthermore, the best way to gain the floor in a conversation is to reach not only out of your own space, but into the other person's space, okay? That really makes it clear to them that you want to gain the conversation. So there's a shared spatial structure. There's just a me space, but an us space and a deictic structure to that. Okay. And we just said this. Okay. Oh, actually, we can say this again, right? So as I said, for interactional adjustments, you reach into the interspeaker space or even into the other speaker space, which is extra interactional. That doesn't have to mean I'm trying to make a point. So in the McNeil lab, there were clear cases where subjects reached into each other's space. So the task that they were doing was an imaginary origami paper folding task. So they first were taught with a real paper, and then they had to do it without, okay? And the quote instructor would actually reach over, so into the student's space and help turn the imaginary paper, right? So again, when you reach into the other person's space, it is extra interactional, whether that's a joint endeavor like folding imaginary paper, or whether it's I'm trying to really get my contribution into the conversation. All right. Yes, this is important. 13. Okay. So when we're interacting, we said we are viewpointed, and we just said it doesn't have to necessarily be my own viewpoint. It could be that I'm enacting some imagined viewpoint. So if I say, he said such and such, and I said, oh no, you know that those gestures are not directed at you, they're directed at the imagined people in the conversation. But you also notice that I just switched roles. I said, he said such and such. I said, oh no. So I didn't even have to turn around there, right? I just switched roles. And this is what Terry Jansen calls a virtual 180-degree rotation in American Sign Language examples. Okay. Also documented in sign languages are cases where the speaker rotates slightly. So for example, I could say, so he said such and such, and I said, oh no. Right. So those are two ways of switching roles in both ASL and in gesture. In switching who you are to interpret the speech and gesture as belonging to. Further, I can represent, this is, remember we just said, I'm good at representing more than one person's affordances and viewpoint at the same time. Right? I literally cannot not be aware of what other people can see. So beauties of how do I represent, if I've got multiple viewpoints around in the scene I'm talking about, how do I represent those multiple viewpoints with one body, right? So the best way of representing a human body is a human body. So I've got an advantage there, I have one. But wait a minute, there's two people I want to represent, or three. Well, I can switch back and forth. I can go between these two things. But I can also cheat in other ways. And so Paul Dudas first noticed this in sign language, but it's also true in gesture. So he has a great example of an American Sign Language story. And the story is about some guys playing cards, and a fight starts. So he's got somebody with their cards. You see the cards in my hands? And the other guy comes over and slugs him one. So wait a minute, my body is now representing the card player who got slugged. And this hand is representing the card holding hands of that guy. But the forearm and fist of this hand are representing the hitter, the other guy. And we'll just skip whatever the upper arm might represent, right? That's just there to connect things. Okay, so I can be two people at once. That's the crucial fact here. Okay, let's skip 14. Yes, okay, let's do 15 for a moment. All right. So in gesture and space, I have constant metaphoric and deictic representations of processes. So if I'm really representing physical motion, not metaphoric, I might say something like, he came over to me, and I'll move my hand towards me, and she went away, motion away from me. But if I have to describe to you, for example, let's say how I get a degree at Berkeley. So I might say, well, first you get into Berkeley, you have to do admissions. Then you take your basic classes. Then you do this, right? And my hand gradually gets farther and farther away from me. I couldn't do it this way, right? And end up with finally you get a degree. So metaphoric motion, which isn't about motion, it's about metaphoric representation of abstract processes as motion, right? States or locations, and processes are of change, are motion through time. It has to be away from the body. And that's deictic as well. Okay. Why is this the case? Well, perhaps because a lot of human motor actions start with the limb at rest and move the body or hand or whatever outwards. Okay. We just did 16 and 17. Okay. Okay, and let's look at 18 for a second. Okay. So a crucial fact about gesture space is it's got all kinds of internal deictic structure. So we've talked about time, where for most European speakers anyway, the future is ahead of ego, and the past is, this is next year, and this is last year, okay? Topics and loci and handedness. So if I say, well, let's say I'm a righty, not a lefty, right? So my right, in fact, my right hand is my strong, dominant hand. And I say, well, Democrats think this and the Republicans think that. You could guess I'm a Democrat, right? So the dominant hand is the one that just really represents your viewpoint or your primary topic. This is what we're mostly talking about, and this is only a secondary topic, and so on. So the loci in space are deictically structured so that the dominant hand, the central location. We all have this up-down axis, which you can actually not for gesture, but you can read about the metaphors in Metaphors We Live By if you haven't. Okay, so moral is up and moral is down. More is up, less is down. So power is up, and so on. Okay. So 19. So yeah, just abstract deixis here. So the physical self has literal handedness, and the abstract self has preferences or topics. Okay. All right. How about 21? So here we come. How do we show in language the kind of multiple and blended points that we experience all the time? Okay, so language doesn't have the advantage of a body to represent a body. Language isn't iconic. Well, with signed language, we could get back to that. But spoken and certainly written language is not iconic in this kind of a way. All right. So literature is this way because we are this way, multi-viewpointed. And impossible or contradictory mixes of forms occur in both gesture and language to show multiple viewpoints. So when you get conflicting forms that show different viewpoints, that's a sign that they don't reflect a single individual's viewpoint. Okay, so here is, now we're getting to literary language. So-called tight third person. So narrative that's technically third person, but closely tied to a character's viewpoint. So here's an example. Okay, she's at the window. It was snowing now. Mommy would be home soon.
Professor E.
Yes.
I think I'm going to translate the last part of the conference.
Okay.
Just so students can grasp
Okay.
it better.
So if I finish this slide, then you can translate and then.
Great.
Oh,
Great.
Okay. So in English here, and a lot of this has been looked at in Romance languages as well, so I'm guessing that it was snowing. The use of the past progressive gives us an interior viewpoint on the event instead of an exterior viewpoint. It's not just the narrator's viewpoint, it's the character's viewpoint. If I said it snowed, it wouldn't be the same. The now is not the narrator's now, it's the character's now, even though the character is third person with respect to the narrator. And mommy, we're taking it here, is the character's mommy. Soon is the character's soon. Okay, so even though this is past tense and it's past with respect to the narrator, not the character, and it's third person.
Nesse exemplo que ela traz, it was snowing now, mommy would be home soon. O que ela diz é que nós temos a introdução de um personagem com o she, seria o ela. Mas no que segue, it was snowing now, mommy would be home soon. O que nós temos aí é uma mistura de ponto de vista, porque não é simplesmente o ponto de vista do narrador. Esse now e esse soon, eles revelam que é a perspectiva da personagem que está sendo colocada ali. E o mommy, essa referenciação que se estabelece, também é pela perspectiva do she e não do narrador propriamente. Ok.
Okay, so let's go to 23. Okay, so Lieven Vandelanote has suggested that there's this added kind of indirect speech. So the what we were just looking at, the past plus now, are examples of what some people call free indirect speech and style.
Certo, ok. Então, o que ela tá trazendo é um exemplo de construções com agora mais passado. Now, em inglês, now com o passado. E o que tem sido estudado é que essas construções elas revelam, na verdade, construções de discurso indireto livre, em que você tem a mesclagem de um ponto de vista do narrador com o ponto de vista de uma personagem. Ok.
Okay, so here in Lieven van der Lanote's work, he notes another kind of mixed viewpoint in language, which he calls distanced indirect speech and thought. And here's an example. So you was going to do wonders, you was. So notice that in this case, the pronouns are exactly correct to the current situation of the speaker, right? This is addressed to somebody.
Okay.
But the past tense is not, right? It shows that this was not the current situation that's being talked about.
Ok. Então, ela, nessas construções que mostram esse distanciamento, uma das construções identificadas por Van der Lanotte é essa construção de discurso indireto distanciado, que é o que ele chama. Quando você tem uma construção como essa do exemplo, em que o you não é para se referir a uma situação imediata de interação do falante com seu interlocutor, mas é para se referir a alguma coisa passado que vem marcado daí, nesse exemplo, com was. Ok.
Okay. So let's just say that these combinations of viewpoints, markers that are appropriate to the narrator's viewpoint and to the character's viewpoint, mixed with each other, produce for us this impression of two viewpoints coexisting, the narrator's viewpoint and the character's viewpoint.
Okay.
Okay? And they keep them both maintained for us.
Ok, então, o que ela está mostrando é que, pela linguagem, pelas construções e pelas marcas linguísticas que são oferecidas, o que acontece é que algumas vão se especializar para o ponto de vista do narrador, outras da personagem, e nós, como leitores, aquilo que nós percebemos é que existe uma mescla desses dois pontos de vista no discurso. Ok.
Okay, so does this happen in spoken language discourse with gesture as well? And I'm going to have to abridge a little here because we're running short on time. But okay, so let's try 25.
Então, o que ela diz é que isso também foi percebido, não só na linguagem literária, linguagem verbal, mas também foi estudado na linguagem de sinais americana.
Okay, so it's recognized in gesture that I can have two kinds of viewpoint, which some have called character viewpoint and observer viewpoint. So let's say I do this to represent a rowing activity. That's a representation of what somebody might do if they were rowing. Or I do this for running. Okay, I'm acting like a person might be when they're running. But if instead she ran but I did this, right? I just show a trajectory. That's more the viewpoint of an observer.
Certo,
all right,
então,
so do we find mixes? Yes, we do. There are mixes. And I think I'm going to go straight to...
Ok, so let me just translate. Yeah. Então, o que ela diz é que na linguagem gestual, no gesto que acompanha a fala corrente, o que acontece é que podem ser misturados tanto o ponto de vista do falante quanto o ponto de vista de um observador. Então, se eu faço esse gesto, eu estou provavelmente falando de uma ação de remar. Ou se eu faço assim, uma ação de correr. Mas se eu faço isso para correr, por exemplo, eu já estou incorporando o ponto de vista de um observador, não necessariamente da pessoa que está falando. E aí o que acontece é que esses dois pontos de vista, do falante e do observador, eles se misturam o tempo todo enquanto nós estamos produzindo fala com gesto.
Okay, so now I'm going to show you in a story how this works. And I think just go straight to 29, Andre.
Okay.
29 to 31. Okay.
Então essa é uma história que ela vai mostrar que foi documentado numa pesquisa.
Okay, so in this example here, this is a American storyteller telling a story to a friend, and she's enacting a skeptical, difficult official holding a form.
Então, o que está acontecendo aqui, nós temos duas pessoas e a moça é uma contadora de histórias e ela está contando para o interlocutor uma determinada história em que o personagem é um oficial desconfiado que está segurando um documento.
Okay, so you can see that she's looking down at the imagined form, that her hands are engaged in holding the imagined form, and you can see her forehead wrinkled in skepticism.
Então você pode perceber que o olhar dela está direcionado para esse documento imaginário, a cabeça dela está baixa, como se ela estivesse interagindo com o papel, e a testa dela está enrugada num tom de ceticismo.
Okay, now in 30, all right, she's now being herself, her past self, responding to the official. So she's looking all innocent and cheery and responding to the skeptical official. She hasn't turned around, right? She's just moved her head up and looked straight ahead. And notice, however, that her hands are still being the official's hands holding the document.
Então o que
Her head
acontece?
is enacting her past self, looking innocent and friendly, and her hands are the official's hands still holding the document.
Certo. O que acontece aqui é, agora ela muda de ponto de vista, ela incorpora dois. Porque agora ela é o eu dela passado, então ela está agindo toda inocente, com um sorriso, mas as mãos dela ainda estão segurando aquele formulário imaginário. E ela não precisou mudar a postura corporal, a única coisa que ela fez foi levantar a cabeça e dirigir o olhar dela para o interlocutor. Então aí existe a incorporação de um outro ponto de vista, o desse eu passado dela.
Okay, so in both of these pictures, I think you can see she's not looking at the person she's talking to, right? She's looking into space. First, she's looking into space ahead of her, pretending to be the official. And then as she speaks for her past self, she's also looking straight ahead of her into an imagined official, right?
Então veja que nessas duas figuras, nessas duas imagens, o que acontece é o ponto de vista dela direcionado é primeiro para o formulário e depois para um espaço distante, não necessariamente para o interlocutor com quem ela está interagindo.
So nobody who sees someone telling a story like this says, what are they looking at?
Então quando você vê uma pessoa contando uma história assim, você nunca vai pensar para onde que essa pessoa está olhando.
Right? You know what they're looking at. You know what they're doing.
Você sabe o que eles estão fazendo e para onde eles estão olhando.
So now her real world interlocutor asks a question, and now we'll go to 31.
E nesse slide agora, o interlocutor do mundo real fez uma pergunta para a contadora.
So now she turns to face him, right, instead of into her storyland, and notice that one of her hands is still holding onto that document.
E agora ela se vira para ele, ela se dirige para ele, só que notem que uma das mãos dela ainda está segurando o formulário imaginário da história.
So my point here is that this kind of mixture, right? One part of her at this point is being her current self, the narrator, and the other part of her is being a character still. This is just like the kind of viewpoint mixes that we were seeing in free and direct style and distance and direct style.
Então,
right?
o que ela quer mostrar aqui é exatamente o seguinte, que o que nós vimos na literatura, com os exemplos de literatura, do discurso indireto livre e o discurso indireto distanciado, que eles chamam, é que na fala normal, com gesto, nós conseguimos também fazer a incorporação desses múltiplos pontos de vista, em que, por um lado, ela está incorporando o narrador, ela mesma como narradora, e, por outro lado, ela incorpora o ponto de vista de um personagem, porque ela ainda mantém segura aquele formulário imaginário.
Okay, so when we see these mixed viewpoints, right, one part of the body enacting the narrator, another part of the body enacting the character, or when we hear mixed viewpoints, when we hear a now that's the character's now and a past tense that's the narrator's past tense, these are signs to us that the language or the body are enacting more than one viewpoint at once because they're incompatible with each other.
Então, o que acontece nessas construções em que nós temos, por exemplo, o corpo manifestando dois pontos de vista, ou por meio da linguagem também, nos exemplos de literatura, nós temos a mistura do agora com o passado. O que acontece é que tudo isso serve de evidência para mostrar que nós conseguimos mesclar ou mergir esses múltiplos pontos de vista.
Okay. And then let me do 32. We're getting to the end. Okay.
Segurem aí que ela já está chegando no final.
So these are just examples from art. So Marc Demey, this wonderful scholar, has done this work on Van Eyck's Ghent altarpiece, and the painting was made for a particular chapel of the Ghent Cathedral. And in the painting, all of the light is perfectly appropriate, as if it came from the windows of the real chapel onto the fictional scenes. So the idea was that you, as a viewer of the Annunciation scene, would participate in the same light as the characters in the scene. But there's this extra special second light source in the Annunciation scene coming through the window towards the Virgin, and that's from God, right? So that gives us two viewpoints. It allows our lighting viewpoint to align us with the characters that are depicted. And, oh, wait a minute, there's a God's eye viewpoint too. There's light coming from God as well.
Certo. Então aqui ela está mostrando como é que isso também pode ser visto na arte. E ela se refere a uma pintura da cena da anunciação do nascimento do menino Jesus, em que um anjo conversa com a Virgem. E o que acontece é que nessa pintura a luz é configurada de tal forma para que o observador consiga participar da cena. Mas na pintura, na capela em que essa pintura está, o que acontece é que existe uma luz externa que entra por uma janela sobre a Virgem, projetada desse modo. Então, o que acontece é que nós temos aqui um outro ponto de vista sendo colocado, que é o olho de Deus.
Okay, 33, we're getting there, we're almost done. So in art, there's this ability to use secondary gaze as well. So I can have a depicted character looking at something, and that makes me, as a viewer of the painting, look at the something, or make viewers think, what is it that he's looking at? What's there? And this is also in comics and film, the same kind of thing goes on with, let's say I draw a comic character, and I can go back and forth between looking in the comic strip, first one character, and then at the one they're talking to, right? Or maybe I actually see a character, and I see them like over the shoulder of another character that I know is the one that they're talking to.
Certo.
Right?
Então,
and it gives me two viewpoints.
Então, em outro tipo de manifestação de múltiplos pontos de vista na arte, ela fala em relação às pinturas, aos quadrinhos, aos filmes. Quando você tem, por exemplo, numa pintura, uma das pessoas sendo retratada que tem um olhar direcionado para alguma coisa. E você, como observador, é levado a direcionar o seu olhar também, ou pelo menos imaginar o que é que aquilo que a pessoa representada naquele quadro está olhando. No caso dos quadrinhos ou dos filmes, por exemplo, em que você tem a alternância das personagens, o que você tem, na verdade, é o ponto de vista de uma, o ponto de vista da outra. Ou, às vezes, quando você vê um outro personagem pelas costas do personagem falante. Então, essa negociação de ponto de vista também é alcançada nesses outros meios de expressão.
Okay, 2 more and we're done. 35. Skip 34. Okay, so we've said viewpoint is not only everywhere, but it's multiple. That is to say, we are never experiencing, unless we're all alone, we're never experiencing just one viewpoint. right? We're experiencing multiple viewpoints, and the same is true in literature, art, and so on.
Certo. Então, o ponto principal de tudo isso que ela está querendo mostrar é que existe um ponto de vista, ele permeia tudo aquilo que nós fazemos e ele nunca vem sozinho, porque nós sempre temos a consciência do outro, da presença do outro, e quando nas artes, na literatura e até mesmo na fala banal do dia a dia, esses pontos de vistas, eles se misturam.
But the ordinary way we experience this in life is that, first of all, there's distributed actual viewpoint in the world. So there's my own bodily viewpoint, there's yours, there's this other person's. And then my brain patterns represent some combination of these various different viewpoint structures. My viewpoint, your viewpoint, are all in there somehow, right? I'm representing more than one. You can't see that or hear it. Right, my brain is just doing that.
Certo. E o modo básico pelo qual nós experimentamos isso é, primeiro, que nós colocados no mundo, temos a experiência do nosso ponto de vista, do ponto de vista do nosso interlocutor e de todos os outros que povoam o espaço que nós compartilhamos. E essa percepção, ela acaba sendo armazenada no cérebro de algum modo que permita que essas coisas elas vão se mesclando nas nossas estruturas conceptuais.
Okay, so 36. So as I was saying, just having all this stuff in my brain isn't a very good representation. It may be a useful understanding of multiple viewpoints, but it's not a good communicative representation of multiple viewpoints because you can't see it or hear it. So I've got to get outside the invisible brain representation into some shared medium like speech, language, sign, written, gesture, painting, film, and so on.
Então, o fato de nós termos todas essas estruturas no nosso cérebro não quer dizer muita coisa, na verdade. A gente precisa sair desse cérebro, dessa mente invisível, e para verificar como é que tudo isso se manifesta nas múltiplas formas de linguagem.
And different media have different possible ways of doing blended viewpoint. So in spoken and written language, I have possibility of using now with the past tense. I have possibility of changing pronouns, tenses, forms, labels like mommy, and so on. In spoken language, I also have the possibility of replicating one character's intonation and then another character's intonation, right? So in that's not what works out in gesture, right? In gesture, I don't have like tense markers and pronouns and so on, but I do have ways of enacting a person's action,
certo.
Right? Facial expression, and so on.
Então, o que acontece é que os diferentes meios ou as diferentes mídias vão ter os seus recursos próprios para essas manifestações de múltiplos pontos de vista. Então, na linguagem escrita e na linguagem falada, por exemplo, um dos recursos que nós temos é, por exemplo, essa construção com agora mais o passado, em que você consegue fazer esse distanciamento de ponto de vista. Ou você consegue, pela troca de tempos verbais, também mudar o ponto de vista. Ou pela referenciação, como você usar mommy no meio de um discurso indireto livre para mostrar, para revelar o ponto de vista de uma determinada personagem. Ou no gesto, ou na linguagem falada também, que você consegue replicar a entonação daquilo que uma pessoa te disse. Ou nos gestos, em que você consegue, com o seu corpo, realizar diferentes personagens ao mesmo tempo. Então, as diferentes mídias, cada uma vai ter o seu meio pelo qual esses múltiplos pontos de vista podem ser expressos e negociados.
Okay, so that's the take-home thing, is that these different media allow different kinds of impossible, conflicting forms, which can be interpreted in these different ways as representing multiple viewpoints simultaneously, which we can then interpret, for example, one of them as one character's viewpoint and the other as another's, or one of them as the narrator's viewpoint and the other one a character's, and so on, right? So these conflicting viewpoints allow us to construct complex narrative viewpoints.
Certo. Então, o que acontece nessas diferentes mídias é que, nessa construção de diferentes pontos de vista, nós conseguimos construir uma rede complexa de pontos de vista para a narrativa, em que, se eu, na conversação eu tenho o meu ponto de vista, mas consigo mesclar com o de um outro falante ou de um outro interlocutor. Se na literatura eu consigo mesclar o ponto de vista do narrador com o ponto de vista de uma personagem, o que acontece no final é que nós temos uma rede complexa de pontos de vista, tal como ela é revelada na linguagem.
And that's all for now. Thank you.
E é isso. Obrigado. Temos perguntas? Só um esclarecimento, que no início, que a gente estava tendo bastante problema com o delay, a gente achou que atrapalharia um pouco a tradução. Então, mas aí nós pegamos essa parte final justamente para fazer o rescaldo de tudo aquilo que ela disse. Certo? Alguma pergunta? We have questions.
Okay.
Hello, I don't know if you see me. Does she? Yes. Yeah, okay. I'm Renata Mancini, and thank you. First of all, thank you for the great lecture. And it's not... Okay. Is it better? Yep. Okay. Now, here we go. My question is, it's not really a question, it's more like a curiosity, actually, because I was wondering, as you were saying, if there is some room in the theory for taking into account the cultural constraints of gestures, because as you were giving an example of pointing fingers, like to say here, you were saying here or now, I was wondering, we could hypothetically think that there is a culture in which pointing a finger could have a kind of unpolite meaning, and besides of giving the idea of now or here, you would be giving some other extra meanings of being impolite as well, which would somehow have a role in this viewpoint. Is there any room in the theory for that? That's the question. Thank you.
Of course, certainly. Yeah. So I guess what I would say is I've actually looked, so Rafael Nunez and I did this work on Aymara, which, as some of you may know, is an Andean language where it appears as if they have a static landscape of time, with the future lying behind ego and the past in front of ego. Interestingly, now is still right in front of the speaker. Okay, so there's something about that being now, whether I reverse the past and future metaphor or not. But yes, it's also true that different languages have different favored pointing forms for different functions, and that doesn't change the pointing itself, right? So I could point with this shape of hand, I could point with this shape of hand, I could point. Mouth pointing is not infrequent in the world's languages. Head pointing is very frequent if our arms are full, right? So let's say I've got books in my arms, I can't do anything, right? And you say, where is the key? And I go.
Ok.
So there's many ways of pointing.
Então, a pergunta, não sei se todos entenderam, foi se existe algum tipo de restrição cultural para a realização dos gestos, certo? E se a teoria acomoda isso. E a resposta da professora Ive foi sim. E ela citou um exemplo de uma pesquisa que ela conduziu com um professor da Universidade de San Diego, Rafael Núñez. Eles trabalharam com uma língua falada no Chile, uma língua chamada Aymara. E nessa língua, o passado é para frente e o futuro é para trás. É o reverso daquilo que nós temos comumente, certo? O eu continua sendo o centro, mas o futuro é para frente e o passado é para trás. Oi? O futuro é para trás e o passado é para frente. Desculpa. Isso mesmo. O meu ocidentalismo me impediu aqui. Mas aí ela deu outros exemplos de, por exemplo, em algumas culturas, apontar, não importa se é assim, apontar pode ser do mesmo jeito. Você ainda está apontando, e você pode apontar pela boca, fazer assim, ou com a cabeça, se você está com a mão cheia de material, cheia de livros, e te perguntam onde está tal coisa, e você fala lá. Então, independentemente do modo pelo qual você faz, você acaba realizando o gesto de apontar, por exemplo. Para nós é diferente, a gente pode fazer assim, assim, assim. Mais perguntas? Certo. Conexão ruim. Okay.
Tá.
Okay, so we would like to thank you once again. Okay. So thank you again for your conference. It was great.
Well, thank you all.
Yes, thank you.